Okay. Hopefully this will work better. I'm going to shuffle a couple things. So I'm giving you guys a minute to come in. So I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need my lighter. Okay. Giving you guys a minute to hop back on. Yay. Tennille says that's the spot. Yeah, guys, I think it's just a setting on my laptop. I'm still like, you know how you get a little spoiled because like everything is set up the way it's always been set up, and then my laptop was on its last leg, so I have a new one, and it's like I have to like redo all the settings, and it's crazy. So okay, good. I'm glad that's better for you guys. And I have my notes pulled up, so I'm all good. Good morning, Jennifer. Hi, Tennille. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Karis. Hi, Kathy. I'm glad the sound is better. You know, and it's funny, the sound is better and it's just my iPhone. You know? Good, good, good. Libby's back. Sarah says it's good. All right. Good, 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 guys. And we'll get it figured. So I don't need this in my ear now. Let me pull that out. I stole I stole Ken's headset this morning, so. Yay. Oh, Kathy says the picture is clearer too. That's good to know. Thank you. Yeah, I thought it was a little grainy on the laptop too. I'm not sure why. Okay, friends. So tell me, give me like, comment a little thumbs up if you've downloaded your workbook. We're going to give people a minute to jump in. Glad I had a backup plan. Yeah, Libby, I do love it. It works so much better than my other one. Yeah. Hi, Sharon. Yeah, it was just kind of a little grainy and a little wonky. Jennifer's good. Sarah's good. Libby's good. Got your workbooks right on. So, no worries. You could always follow along. Yeah, and guys, too, if you don't want to print it out, it's a PDF. So if you have like, I really am only familiar with Adobe, but if you have, I came in screaming. So if you have like the Adobe PDF Reader, there's a little thing at the top, then it says text. And if you click on that, it will let you text right onto your PDF. So easy peasy. Oops, I'm trying to use my mouse to like read you guys' comments. That's not working. I'm not mad. Are you kidding? Margaret, the workbook link, if you go to pathways with an S, stl.com/workbook, there's a spot in there where you could just type in your information and click the button and it will send it to you. Tennille says, I'll print. I'm old school. I print too. I am old school as well. Nope, Kathy, this is a workbook for today. How to succeed at your goals in 2023. So guys, if you don't have it, it's no big deal. This is going to live on here. You can take notes. It's all good. You can always download it later. You can always watch the replay and do it then. Don't freak out. We have a lot of type A people. It's all good. Don't freak out. But so we are going to go through the workbook today, but you can always come back and watch the replay. It might be easier for like if there's some like things that really speak to you, just to make notes today. Don't stress on it. It's all good. Libby says she's a printer too. Yes. Yes. Okay. Tennille says, I'll work on it now. I'm on my phone. Yep. Okay, guys. So let's go ahead and jump into our workshop for today. So hail and welcome to all you guys that showed up for this workshop. I'm so glad you're here. I have notes to keep me on track. So I'm going to like try not to get off in the weeds with you guys too much today. So you guys have already, let's see. Oh yeah, no worries, guys. So I'm gonna swipe you to the side just for a second. Good morning, Rebecca Brown. I'll swap you guys to the side just for a second because you know Mel likes to stay on track. I have lots of notes. So we've got everybody on, like we can probably get through this workshop, I would say in like 30 minutes. It's not gonna take long because I don't like a lot of fluff. So our stuff is gonna be pretty straightforward. I am here if you have questions. We're going to do the questions like in sections, so I'm going to hopefully try not to miss anything. So if you guys are already have decided what you're working on as your goal or your focus, I would love for you to drop it in the chat and let me know what it is. I'm going to swipe you back so I can see that. Because you might be able to get a head start on what you're working on. Hey, Toby. No worries, Deborah Jeanette. There's no limit to like how many times you can download the workbook too. I just made it unlimited, so you're good. No worries. So guys, remember, if you have questions regarding your goals and stuff, you have access to me today in this. So if you need some clarification on something, drop it in the chat on the live. I cannot guarantee I'll see it if you come back on a replay, but I will do my best. So if you have questions as we go along, there'll be sections in there for us to like go through questions. We'll work our way through the workbook. Logie says, get back into a healthier lifestyle. I like it. I like it. I'll share mine with you guys. Mine is to get systems in place for the store. We have some systems, but they could use some improvement. But I have plans to work on 4 sets of systems and have them done by June 30th. Sharon says, working on a baby, prepping her biz and her family for changes to come. Honor says, just to be open to receive. I don't have anything concrete planned beyond that. And you don't have to. Something may come to you as you go along. So that's the idea with this. You can come back to this at any time to like check any of the notes that you might have made, or you know, sometimes when we listen to things again, we hear it a different way. So not to worry as far as that goes. So just keep in mind, and full disclosure, we are going to use the Pathways Planner today as an example, but if you don't have it, you can apply this to your own stuff. If you decide you want a planner, of course, we'll be happy to sell you one. But the things we're going over today, you can apply to your own stuff as well. So we just want to see you succeed in 2023, however you choose to approach it. We just want a really great year for you. So we had talked about it at the beginning. If you have not downloaded the free workbook, you can do that anytime. It's just Pathways with an S and then another S, T as in Tom, L as in lemon.com/workbook. First, you will receive a confirmation email. Workbook will follow in another email. Make sure that you just do a search for Pathways and you'll find your workbook a lot quicker. Sarah says, I want to ease back into work after these past 5 months of hip replacement recovery. Yes. Sarah, you're going to be like a new bionic woman. Danielle says, I want to make it to bed earlier, and with recent friends developing with health issues and take better care of yourself. Yeah, same girl, same. Kathy wants to figure out her business stuff. Nice. What type of schedule would work with her 9-to-5 job? Yeah. Honor says, I've had walls and blocks up preventing manifestation, joy, and love, working on releasing all that. Good for you, Honor. Libby, I have several small goals. The big goal is to get the finances in order, and all the other smaller goals will be easier. Ain't that the truth? Margaret, I just went there and it took me to a page to sign up for this, but no workbook. I'll try again later. Yeah, it'll come separately, Margaret. You just do a search for it. It's funny, guys. Whenever you opt into something on email, it will come to your inbox because you opted into it. But then that next thing that it sends to you, it almost always goes to promotions or spam. It's just part of like how email is set up so you don't get things you don't want. That's all. It's in there though, I promise. It'll show up in a minute or so. Deborah Jeanette says, my goal is to be financially stable, allowing me to do art as I feel, not as an obligation. Oh my God, I love that. And be more in tune with your spiritual self, living simple and real. Diane, increase muscles, bone density, and balance. That's a great goal. Oh my gosh, you guys, these are great. I love these. Okay. So the way this is going to run is we are going to talk about the why behind the workshop. We're going to talk about how you can personalize it for yourself. We're going to talk about the 5 easy steps that you can use to succeed and how you can continue to work with us if you want to over in that private planner community. So just as far as that goes. Okay, so guys, as you know, I'm going to swipe you to the side just so I can stay on track for just a second. In full disclosure, I am not a life coach. I'm not a business coach. I am not a therapist. However, if you do want a great coach, I have one. Her name's Lisa. She's amazing. But you guys know me. I read a lot. I study a lot. And I'm here to share the things with you that I have learned along the way. And so we can all work on succeeding at these goals together for this year. While I'm not those things, I am a rabid lifelong reader. And for those of you that may not know me, I'm one of the owners of Pathways New Age Books and Gifts, a brick and mortar metaphysical shop located here in St. Louis, Missouri. We are a real place. You should come and visit, really. If you haven't, visit. And very briefly, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Melina. Sometimes I go by Mel. And I got into all of this about the age of about 13. I would say right about 13. And it has been in my life ever since. My background, of course, is various flavors of things like pagan, Western magic, earth religion, Sanskrit mantra, Native American stuff. I basically like everybody as long as you're nice. My background is pretty eclectic. And I was also ordained as a priestess of the Well of Avalon tradition way back in 2003. So let's talk about the why behind the workshop. So I have a few bullet points here I want to touch with you guys. So you might be asking, if we're a shop that's based on all things magic and metaphysical, why would we be talking about a how to succeed at your goals in 2023 workshop? Well, we see a lot of people come in, they're asking for advice on magical things. They're asking for advice on mundane things, and there's this definite disconnection. There's a separateness between those two lives, and that's what part of that problem was, because that's why they were doing wasn't working. So it's hard because we like our customers, and it's hard to watch them kind of struggle through this. We don't just like sell this stuff here. If you guys have been around for any length of time, you know this about us already. But we honestly want to see you succeed. So to help everybody, for our birthday last August, we turned 35. We created the Pathways Planner. We created the private Pathways Planner Facebook community. Say that 3 times fast. And of course, this workshop came into being to help you with all that. So we want to remind you that you can do big things. And keeping in mind, you can do big things in the world, or you can do big things in your personal world. But big is relative, so don't be too judgy. And that should be your note. If you're taking notes, that's your number 1 note I'd recommend you take. Don't be judgy about the size of your goal or what your goal is or what you're working on. That's important. Okay. So a couple more things before we begin. For those of you that might be new, when we use the word universe or deity throughout the workshop, please know we want you to insert your own preference for that word in your own notes. So whether you we always say God, Goddess, Buddha, Allah, whoever, it doesn't matter who you're talking to, as long as you're talking to somebody out there. So we'll also be, we're not here to tell you like what to believe or who to talk to out there. So just insert your own deity in that section. We'll also be using the word energy a lot. So sometimes you might want to insert your deity's name there. If you're familiar with all this, you already know what energy is and what will be. It'll make sense to you as we go along. So on that note, you can turn to the first page in your workbook, which we'll be going over with you guys. So if you don't have the workbook, do not distress. We have you covered. So the very first thing we're going to talk about on this first page is clarity. And the reason that we're talking about clarity is because clarity equals results. When you get clear on what you want, it's a lot easier to find a way to get there. While this sounds repetitive, Let's think about it for a minute because the details are important. Let me swipe you guys just for a second. I think we're still good. Okay. I'm just checking my feed there to make sure we're still live. So if your goal is vague, how can you know when you reached it? So example, I want to lose weight. It's an easy one to talk about. How do you know when you've completed that goal if you just say, I want to lose weight? Your questions would be, how much? By when? Doing what? How often? On your own? With a group? Will you diet? Will you exercise? So there's all sorts of things that you can put in there that will help you get clear on exactly what you want. And when you're clear, it's easier to see the steps to get there. Another thing you want to look at is look at the why behind your goal. So when we talk about, let's keeping using weight loss as an example, what's the why? Why do you want to lose the weight? So like you might want to feel better in your body. You might want to be able to play with your kids or your grandkids. You might want to look good naked, which is totally fine. But there's no wrong why. It just needs to be something purposeful and something that you connect with. Hopefully does that all make sense? Can you guys drop a yes in the comments if that makes sense for me? Let's see, I'm going to check the feed real quick. Oh, good. We have folks on here that are already sharing resources. I love that. Oh, Kathy, you're so nice. Oh, good, Margaret. Right on. Okay, so that all makes sense for you. So on the first page in your workbook here, we're talking about clarity. I forgot to fill up my screen. Sorry about that. So this is where you can write your initial goal for the year. And then we talk about how to make it a little more clear. So like SMART goals, guys, are not a new thing, but like they are worth revisiting because sometimes we forget about these aspects that go in. I'm so glad you guys are all on page with us. Right on. So SMART goals, there's two ways to look at your goals. You can do the SMART goals, specific, measurable, I have to read them, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, because sometimes I don't remember all those words. A shortcut to it, though, is who is going to do what when. So that's like a nice short one I can remember. Who is going to do what and when they're going to do it. So that's a really good way to kind of like fine-tune what you're doing, to kind of answer the basic questions, to kind of flesh it out a bit more. So also, guys, I gave you an example on here. So with the examples, like I'm going to lose 5 pounds by January 31st by working out for 30 minutes, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Does that make sense? That's kind of like the more detailed aspect of what you're working on. So also, as far as SMART goals go, at the very bottom of your workbook, there's a link. If you want to know more about SMART goals, I went ahead and put that in there for you. So also, to go along with those SMART goals, there's some other things you can think about. So is your goal, you think about what type of goal it is. Is it a numerical goal, like 5 pounds, $10,000, whatever it is? Is it a project, like I want to put a deck on the back of the house, or I want to write a book? Or is it habit-based? Like, again, you could use like that working out 3 times a week as an example. Keeping in mind, the processes are the habits, the routines, and the actions that get you to the goal. So your goal's here, and your habits, your routines, and your actions are the things that help you get to the goal. Does that make sense? The goal is what the processes get for you. So hopefully that makes sense there. So also, let's talk a little bit about the mindset behind it too. So is your goal believable to you? We always say it's really great to dream big, but something I want you to think about is your brain has to believe it. So here's a good example. Let's say I'm gonna dream really big for myself, and I'm gonna make $100,000 this year, or $1 million. Let's say $1 million. I'm gonna make $1 million this year. If you've like not broken 100,000, then you need a really good plan in place to get you to that million. Does that make sense? Or if you say, I want to lose 100 pounds by December 31st, that's a lot of weight in 1 year. So you need to have a really good plan in place and really good clarity around that plan to get you to that goal. Okay. So as far as that goes, can anybody think of a way they can refine their goal and drop it in the chat for me? To refine it where it's got a little more information behind it. I forgot my chapstick, guys. I'm going to give you guys to do that. While you're doing that, also, if you have questions based on anything we've talked about so far, drop that in the chat. I'm seeing a couple more people jump on. Hello, or jump back in. It's hard to tell. So, if you have a question, drop it in the chat roll there. Looks like we had some folks jump out and jump back in. So if you had trouble with the feed or have a question, drop it in there. While we're doing that, while we're letting people kind of come in and get caught up, think about magically speaking. If you still like need some help, like figuring out the clarity around that goal, magically wise, you might want to cleanse your space and then come back to your goal and kind of sit with it for a while. If you wear a lot of stones, you might want to take your stones off and then come back to your space and then see how that feels to you afterwards. If you're looking for clarity, you might want to just like grab a clear quartz and work with that, an apophyllite, a dambarite. If you're one of those people that feel like you were all over the place, like that wind card we pulled this morning, you might want to grab a stone that's kind of a little more grounding. So keep in mind, guys, as we go through all this today, this is not the final iteration of your plan. This is your brainstorming session. It does not have to be perfect. It's all good. Hi, Monica. We are in workshop mode. Sharon says, creating content for her biz through October 1st before May 15th so it's done and off her plate when the baby gets here. Perfect. That's perfect. Deborah Jeanette says, I feel like if I get it all marked out and planned, detailed, I can manifest it better in pieces, but getting it planned out can sometimes be a challenge. Also, you might want to, Deborah Jeanette, have you ever done a mind map? That would be helpful for you. You can Google it. It's real easy to find, where essentially like you brain dump stuff out, and sometimes that will kind of help you pull that together. Let's see. Sharon says, for her, that looks like creating a weekly calendar and breaking it down week by week so you're batching it out in time. Yes. Yes, yes. Honor says, I'm being open to receive, and if she can't receive a small gift from someone, I'm not ready to be open to receive big gifts yet. That's perfect. That is perfect. Yes. Kathy says, I have to get out of my own head to figure mine out. Yeah, maybe just, don't be too hard on yourself there. Deborah Jeanette, you're so funny. Libby says, my goal is financial, so I'm going to open mail, email weekly, track spending, savings, and budget. And savings is her day to do this. I love that. That's perfect. Margaret, finishing the outline for my book by mid-February, and then having the book written by 12/31. Tennille, I want to make it to bed an hour earlier, start my yoga stretches and back strengthening, and walks again. She says, I've been a bad girl. Kathy says, if you want to work on more than one goal at a time, what's the best way to do that? By planning them out. Honestly, it's so funny. Okay, Kathy brings up a really good point here that I'm going to share just a little bit without getting us too far off in the weeds. So when I was figuring out what I wanted to do, I noticed, like, I think I told you guys, my thing for the year is creating systems for the business, and I have a big plan written out for that. But I noticed I had a few things I wanted to work on, like Kathy talked about, and all of my stuff had this common theme throughout it of having a reliable, doable system of things that I did to make the other goals happen. So systems are my thing this year. But Kathy, you might want to write it all out and see if there's a common thread for you. Honor, I'm working on releasing feelings of lack and saying no to gifts offered. There's a great phrase, Honor, to offer help where it's needed and to accept it when it's given. Yeah, it's hard for us to receive sometimes. Deborah Jeanette's agreeing with Kathy Toki. Yeah. Yeah, and you're welcome. And like, don't beat yourself up over it, guys. It's all good. Okay. Sharon says, I found that sometimes the common theme to multiple goals is creating good time management. Yeah, that can be helpful too. Like, I knew for me, I was lacking systems in several parts of what I wanted to work on. Analysis paralysis is real. Yeah, because sometimes too, you can just like go down the rabbit hole of planning, and then it's just like you plan and plan and over plan, but there's no action. A little less talk, a little more action, as they say. So also in your book, there's a question on here, what you can do to magically clarify your goal. So you might want to put some thought into that. Exactly. Julie says little goals add up to big ones. That's perfect, Honor. I love that. And then how can you adjust your mindset to make your goal more realistic? A lot of times too, when we are working on things, we have like questions like, do we deserve this? Are we asking for too much? Like if you've been brought up to be like very humble and very quiet, asking for things can be hard. So it's okay to like want things for yourself. It's all good. Tennille, same girl. I'm working on it. Tennille and I feel like we were separated at birth. There you go. There you go. Okay, guys, let's move on to the next page in the workbook. And this is all about relationships. So, we're talking in this about how to build or enhance your relationships, whether they're with deity, whether they're with bosses, whether with people you work with, whether they're with your family. When we are talking about like how you marry the mundane and the magical or the spiritual together. So like if you can build a relationship with a deity, which has that much larger bird's eye view than the rest of us do, I think you guys are going to get a lot more out of that. Because you see, magic works best when it's part of us. Or if you don't like the word magic, and put the word spiritual in there. Magic is just a term we use a lot here. But it works best when it's part of us. And if the only thing we do is ask for things when we need them, there's no energetic exchange. Like if you guys have been around the shop for any length of time, Deborah always talked about currency, like money. She goes, it's called currency for a reason. It has to like go out and come back, just like the current in the ocean. So kind of keep that in mind. And when we just ask for things, there's no relationship built between us and deity or spirit, or insert your own deity in this space. However, when we take the time to build that bridge, amazing things can happen. It's kind of like when you go up to a friend that you haven't seen from high school in like 20 years and ask them for money. Rude. Don't do the same thing to your connection with deity. Spirit's the same way. And it expects you to put in your share of the energy. It's not a slot machine. It's just not. So also a good thing to kind of keep in mind, if you guys ever notice, like once you start working with spirit or universal source energy or whatever you want to call it, more things start to happen. It's like you pray or you talk to spirit and spirit listens, and it's like, oh, they're paying attention. Let's give them more things to connect to. So it builds and strengthens that bond. It's kind of like it's kind of like making a new friend. It's like that. Libby says, I feel mine will be Lakshmi, although she is not Celtic. She doesn't have to be Celtic. You can connect with whoever you want. Lakshmi was my very first goddess I worked with for a year and a day. And one of the best things that she taught me was, when you're working on prosperity and wealth with her, start with what you have. So like I really wanted to be out of my apartment and in a house. And what came to me was, what are the components of a house? Well, I already have a kitchen. So I already have that. I already have a bedroom. I already have that. And it's like things kind of stack up, and then you put out the energy that helps you attract to you what you're after. Yes, Kate, it is rude. It is rude just to ask for the universe for stuff and expect it to work like a slot machine. So if anybody else has a deity they regularly work with, try that again. Drop it in the comments below. You are welcome. No worries. You can always catch the replay. I would love to see what you guys put in the comments. Honor says, I found myself drawn to Ganesha lately. I love that, Honor, especially with what you're working on, because Ganesha can help you remove those obstacles to help you with that receivership that you're working on. So yeah, and it's Ganesha I found is also really good for recognizing your own worth. Yeah. Yes, Kate. Yes. Deborah says, when I ask, I've always already said thanks for what I do have, and I also ask for guidance on how best to use what I've received, maybe? Been given. Yep. That's a great one. You always say thank you. You get more when you say thank you. It just builds the energy, It's just so much nicer that way. So when you work with deity over time through meditation, prayer, ritual, things like that, you not only help bring more peace into your space, but you create this partnership with those finer beings of light, those beings on the finer planes. And that deepening connection brings you more knowledge, just like we talked about. It's like you're building a relationship and information, and that's all stuff that you can use to create the life that you crave, the life you want, and the goals that you're trying to work on. So I always thought that it'd be nice to think of deity as like your accountability buddy or your accountability partner. I always thought that was a great way to do that. So let's see. If we're in the book, we've talked about the deity you might want to work with, how that deity might align with your goals. You can brainstorm in here ways that you might like to work with them, whether it be prayer, meditation, ritual, actions that you do. Kate says, I believe I need to reconnect with Artemis to aim and get my goals. That's a great one. But there's several questions on this page on relationships that you can work with. And I also included on here, will you have an accountability partner besides deity? You might want to find a friend where you guys can keep each other on track, kind of like you're, again, an accountability partner, an accountability buddy. So there's a few things on there for that as well. You also might want to consider setting up an altar space as you go. Also, it's a good placeholder for like how to hold that energy for you. Tennille says, waiting for my next one to show them their self to me. It's been a while and since I've worked with a new one. Yeah. I think a lot of people are going to be working with Bridget that are part of our regular Facebook community. She's kind of our overlighting one for the Sabbats this year. So I think there's going to be more people working with her as well. Okay, moving on to the next page in your workbook, which is all about the plan, what you're going to set up, what you're going to do. So we've talked a lot about processes. Think about what you might want to do as far as like how you might want to get your plan together. And if you want real progress towards your goal, having a plan is the way to go. Doing little things here and there will help bring results. So don't underestimate the value of small steps that you do. Do yourself a favor, make a plan, even if it's a little one, and don't overthink it. Don't overthink it, guys. This is a starting point for you. So many times when people get their goals set up, it's like if they don't do it perfectly, they get off in the weeds. So guys, you don't have to do it perfect. One thing here you might want to think about, this is a great place to find out how to play to your strengths. Like, what kind of learner are you? You might want to think about that. And like, I am a hands-on learner. I have to do it myself to help me remember it, and I usually have to do things a few times before they really stick in my head. It's just the way that I learn. So drop in the chat, guys. Are you a hands-on learner, or are you like one of those people that can just like read it and do it, or just like watch somebody and do it? So hands-on or read. Let's use those for short words. I would love to see what kind of learners you guys are. But like, if you're a hands-on person, you might want to create a vision board towards your goal to like have it like out there so you can see it like right in front of you. Are you more of a deep thinker? You might want to meditate, pray, or journal about what you're working on. But you want to do the thing that is playing to your strengths. So don't try to start something new that doesn't resonate with you. Lean into what works for you. Yes, I do see some people working with Bridget there. Diane says hands-on and visual. Monica says hands-on. Yes. Deborah says hands-on with direction from reading. Sarah says visual and reading. Libby says visual. Yeah. Jennifer says, or Logie says, I don't comprehend well when I'm reading directions. That's why I kind of have to do it hands-on, yeah. Oh, Honor makes a really good point. Writing things out helps her absorb it. I'm the same way. Margaret says both. I love to research. I'm a nerd like that. Kate says hands-on. Logie says to retain it well. Yeah. Yeah, and like some people say it's a little of both. But like if you find something that really works well for you, use that, guys. You don't have to start from ground zero on this stuff. So keep that in mind. So we had someone asked earlier, like they said, I don't know how to get to my goal. So let's talk about that for a minute. Oh, Monica, I'm so glad. We have a nice group here. So let's talk about what if you don't know how to get to your goal. So like if you've given up in the past, it's so much easier to give up again. But like, is that do you really want to give up again? Do you just want to make this another year where you don't get what you want and what your goal is? I mean, nobody wants that. Wouldn't you rather have something better? I know I would. So the idea is if you really want change, let's migrate away from being that whiny teenager that's like, I don't know how to do it. Because like the buck stops with us, guys. So let's just try and figure it out. Try to like do some research. The Googles are your friends, guys. Do the Google. But look at folks who've done what you've done and then model, but not copy what they've done, because you're going to need to tweak stuff you're going to need to tweak things so they resonate more with you. So we use the word model someone else because everybody's different. Libby says retaining is really hard for her since COVID messed up her brain. Yeah, and I'm hoping it won't be that way for forever, Libby. I hope not. We'll send you some good thoughts for that. Because we've had quite a few customers have some issues, like long-term issues with COVID. So we're just focusing on that as not for forever. But like if you think about it, guys, if you like it, let's say again, weight loss is an easy one. If you see somebody out there that like you really like what they do, how they do things, you want the same results they do, model what you do off of them within your ability and within your skill set. It's kind of the same thing if you like think of finances too. Those are the two easiest ones for examples. So like you might want to, you might see somebody out there that you've seen that has made money and helped change the world. You can model what you want to do off of that. And again, just tweak it so it fits more of your life. Tennille says, I think hands-on makes it more accountable. Yeah. Yeah. And like for me and the way my brain works, the hands-on stuff, I can like see it and touch it and feel it and know that I've completed something for sure. So one of the things you might want to think about, remember, your path is yours. When we talk about modeling and like making it your own, your path is yours. Keep searching until you find something that resonates with you. And of course, if you're in our free private planner community, there's a lot of lovely people in there. Bounce it off our folks in there. They're very nice. So if we look at the plan in the workbook, we talked about what's worked for you in the past. What are your strengths? How can you leverage those towards your goal? What will you have to research or figure out? Who is someone successful doing what you want? Maybe you can like take some notes off of what they do. Of course, thinking about what your first steps are. And we also want to talk about how you can measure milestones. So again, there's another little link. It's not a link, but there's a little note here at the very bottom with another great resource for you. So when we talk milestones, we want to talk about measuring how far you've come versus how far you have to go. So this references the link on the bottom of your workbook. There's a book out there called The Gap and the Gain. It's a great book. Check out the podcast. I think it's only 4 episodes long, so you don't have to listen to it for the rest of your life. But it talks about like if you think about one of the examples I use is like if you're swimming. So like let's say you're swimming in a pool and it's like a really long lap pool. And like you look up from the water and you see like, oh my gosh, I have so far to go before I get to the end. But like, if we just focus on how far it is to go, it's easy for us to get disappointed and think that we're not going to get there. But like, if you take a moment and look behind you and see how far you've come and measure that, that's more than likely going to give you the energy that you need to help push you more forward, to give you that momentum to keep going. So I'm hoping that that part makes sense. But like, the idea is when you focus on how much further you have to go, you don't appreciate how far you come. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. So the idea is, don't give up, make your plan, start with your small steps, and be willing to keep doing them. So again, a great resource is the Gap in the Gain podcast, and they have like a little 4-series thing there. Deborah Jeanette says, I need to clean the pool before I get into the water. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and sometimes cleaning that pool is really just like cleaning up some of that mindset. And I don't know about you guys, but in the past, I always thought, well, I need just to start over at the very beginning. No, you don't. Just start where you're at. Don't waste time. You can't get that back. Just start where you're at and go from there. A real quick short story without being too much in the weeds. I'm part of this online group. I'm part of several groups like a lot of us are. But I was following the journey of this woman. She was a very large, very morbidly overweight, morbidly obese woman who was on a scooter, you know, those little scooters that you scooter around the house in. And like, her goal was to be able to like walk again and start walking. She wanted to lose some of her weight. So what she did is she started walking inside her house. So she would get off her scooter and walk from her scooter to the couch or her scooter to the kitchen table. And then pretty soon she started posting like that. She'd post a picture. She goes, this is me. I walked halfway to my mailbox today and then back. And then I just kept following her, and it was just so inspirational, you know. And then like the day came where she posted, I walked all the way to the mailbox today, you know. And then she started posting, I walked back and forth to the mailbox twice. And I was just so inspired by her, because it's like, there's proof there. It makes me a little emotional. There's proof there, though, that even in the smallest steps we take, we can reach our goals, because they add up over time. But she was just amazing. I just thought she was great. Diane says, kind of like the visual about how to eat a 100-pound toad, one bite at a time. I've heard the elephant reference like that too. Honor says, remember, when the tower falls, it leaves you all those great bricks, and they're just tools. Don't abandon them. That's great. Yeah. Danielle says, thanks for making me realize you may succeed better by taking small steps. Yeah, so often more than not, I think society kind of just has created this, it's a little bit of a thought form that like things come easy, you can do big things really easy and fast, and that's just not the way things are. That's kind of like more like watching a TV show. It's like your brain knows it's just a TV show. You know what I mean? It's not real life. So, yeah, the lady with her scooter, just like, yeah, she gave me a lot to think about. Really, really great woman. So let's go to the next page. We are almost done, guys. Our next page, our next section is called Evolve. Our next step is all about the evolving. So this is all about the part of refining your plan. So if you've worked on it at some point and like you found some things where you need to make some adjustments, then this is where you can refine or evolve the plan that you're working on. And this can be some of the hardest part for some people, because a lot of times if you think about all your resolutions and things that have failed in the past, we think that, well, it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, so we just quit. That's why most resolutions are over by the 3rd week of January. I know, right? But it's a time for us to course correct, to find out what like really works best for us and what we could do to get us to our goals. So it's this next part's really important. I made notes for this. So like a lot of times people will have that thought of, I've fallen off the wagon, or I'm not doing it right. And sometimes when we compare ourselves to other people, we have thoughts about what we think we should do, what we think and what we should do to get things right. So sometimes it's true. Sometimes we're not doing it right. But the good thing is, more often than not, it's just more about not doing it correctly as opposed to doing it right. Right feels very judgy. So Mel story here really quick. So I was talking to my coach Lisa, and I told her, I brought it to her one day, and I'm like, I feel like I'm doing it wrong. She goes, well, let's talk about it. So we talked about all the things, and she goes, well, yeah, you are doing it wrong. And I was just like, ugh. She goes, no, Mel. She goes, you're just doing it wrong. So it's not like you're doing it wrong, let's get all judgy and up in your face. It's like, no, you're just doing it wrong. So what do you need to do it right? So it dials down that emotional part of it. And honestly, after that, I was really glad to find out I was doing it wrong, because then I could figure out what I needed to do to make it right and make it work for me. Please tell me that made sense. Please drop a yes in the comments if you understand what I'm trying to say here. So I don't always feel like I explain things very well. So in the long and short of it, you don't want to judge it. So we just want to course correct it. Okay, thank you for the hearts. I think that means that you understand what I'm saying. So yeah, it's a good thing if you realize you're doing it wrong. That way you can do it right. So talking to all you perfectionistic friends out there, because I know I have a lot of them. So be willing to make mistakes. That's where we learn. Oh, Kathy said her screen froze during some of that. Kathy, we just don't want to judge. That's what it comes down to. It's good if we figure out we're doing it wrong, because then we can figure out how to do it right. Okay, thanks for that, guys. I just wanted to make sure that you were picking up what I was throwing down there. We also have to be willing to do B work. I don't want to break some of your brains right now, because perfectionistic thinkers, yes, we are. Sometimes we have to be okay with B work instead of A work. Like if you think about grades when you were in school, allow yourself to do even small advances are still advances, guys. So we've talked about this a little bit too. If you've chose a word for the year and that word didn't work out for you last year, just change it to something else. Nobody says you have to stick with it for the whole year. Find something that resonates with you. It's more important that you get to your goals than whether you stuck with a word that ended up not being the right word for you. It's kind of like the idea of again, fitness is easy example. Let's say you start working out 5 days a week. Okay. So you say, I'm going to work out 5 days a week, but you realize very quickly that your body is not ready for that. You haven't done anything up to this point. So starting out at 5 days a week is very unreasonable. And your body's telling you it's very unreasonable. Cut back to 2 days or 1 day and just work your way forward. So if we think back to that lady that walks to the mailbox and think of the progress that she made at the end of the year, you're still further along than you were. Don't quit. Time passes regardless. Don't quit. Yes, that's exactly it. Libby says it's easier to detach the emotional stuff from our evaluation process. In short, just look at the facts. Just look at the facts. Take the adjectives and the adverbs out. Deborah Jeanette says that's a tough one, but maybe it can be a little easier in little baby steps, maybe. Yeah. Sarah says the lotus doesn't bloom without the mud. That's another one I remember Deborah saying too. That's a great one. The lotus doesn't bloom without the mud. So if we look at our workbook, here's a good question for you guys. Where do you judge yourself unfairly? First question in the workbook. How can you be a little more compassionate? How can you change your thoughts around that situation? Where can you take imperfect action towards your goal instead of giving up? So B grade work instead of A grade work. The question is, do you need to adjust or evolve your goal? How can you make that realistic? And this is a good thing too. Think about ways that you can habit stack. There's another reference at the bottom of this page. There's a great book out there called Atomic Habits. And so I want you to keep in mind over 40%, guys, 40% of the decisions we make on a day-to-day basis comes from our habit brain. And it can feel like it's hardwired in there. So if we go to this thing called habit stacking, you start where you already have success, and then you just add a little something onto the end of it. So, like if you take vitamins or if you take medication in the morning, what's one small thing you can add on to the end of that is like geared towards helping you towards your goal? So again, fitness is easy. So like maybe after you take your vitamins or after you brush your teeth or whatever that normal thing is in the morning, maybe you stretch for 3 minutes. 3 minutes sounds a little ridiculous and it sounds really, really tiny. But as you repeat that and do that over time, you're going to want to add a little more. You're going to be like, oh, this feels pretty good. I think I can do a little more. And then check in with yourself and see where you are in a month. See where you are in 6 months. See where you are at the end of the year. It's those little things that we do in the interim that help us get to the big thing. Let's see. Libby says, if you only take one step, you're still ahead of the person on the couch. Yes. 3 steps forward and 2 steps back is still 1 step forward, guys. You know? Yes. Give yourself kudos for what you can do instead of judging what you can't. I love Atomic Habits. It's a great book. I have it on Audible. I think I've listened to it twice. But yeah, I love Atomic Habits. Okay, guys. Last section. Are you ready? You guys will think it's a little weird, but I want you to hear me out. Our last section is on celebrate. So guys, it's really, really important to celebrate your wins, especially if you are a magical, metaphysical person. You know that it creates energy. You know that it builds energy. So it also builds that energy between you and deity, depending on like, you know, when you repetitiously do that work back and forth with deity, it strengthens that bond. So like think about how many times when you achieve something, like think about something you've achieved, and how many times have you like, yay, what's next? And it's like we need to spend more time in the yay part. You know, when we build up that emotion and that emotion creates energy, it's like when we spend more time in that yay or that celebration part, it helps draw and magnetize more of that like energy to us. So it not only feels good to like us in our emotional body, but it feels good to us in our brain. So as I've told you guys before, I've done a lot of reading on the brain. And there's 2 parts to dopamine. So the first part is called dopamine satiety or satisfaction. So that's like, feels good in my brain. And then the other part is it gets that feel-good effect, gets us energetically motivated to like either keep going or to work on the next thing, which is a dopamine-seeking loop. So we always talk about how our brains want to close the loop. So that dopamine works in 2 ways. It's just we have to find that balance between the 2. So again, the first part is the satiety or the satisfaction. Yay, right? The next part is the dopamine seeking loop where we take that yay energy, we build it up, we enjoy it, we sit with it, we celebrate with it, and like good things help us bring more good things. So that's how that loop works. And it gets us energetically motivated. And another thing to think about too is that if you have littles or if you like live with someone, you know, those folks are watching you. And like, especially if you have littles, it's a great way to kind of train them some healthy ways on like how to celebrate themselves when they do good things. It's important to lead by example. Let's see. Libby says, I tell my meditation coaching clients that all the time. They fail because they try too much perfectly. Yeah, that's totally true. That's totally true. So again, on the last page in the book, how can you celebrate along the way? You can even like plan little things for you as you reach these milestones. Ways you can build energy around your goal. You can brain dump things for wins that are for you in the future. Kate says, I had a serious wake-up call recently, realizing how much of a bully I am to myself. Yeah, and that doesn't get you anywhere, but try not to judge it. Just like behind every bully is like that, there's that person that needs that compassion. So think about how you can maybe be a little more compassionate there. Okay, So does anybody have questions so far? We're like almost done, but I just want to see if anybody has questions. And I have one more thing to cover. Giving you guys just a minute there. Okay, while we're waiting, in case people have questions, I'm probably dating myself, but like, you guys remember Columbo? One more thing. I'm definitely dating myself. So one more thing. Remember, guys, time passes regardless. So when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So saying yes to going for a walk means saying no to that extra weight on your knees. It's saying yes to being in the floor playing with your grandkids, or playing with your fur babies. Saying no to eating out today can mean saying yes to saving for a home. Managing your money better or growing it, yes please, can also be like saying no to generational poverty, breaking that generational poverty. The things we do in the short term matter, and they yield results down the road. So again, I want to ask you guys, who do you want to be? How can you be that person today? And what do you want your 2023 to look like? So some good things for you guys to think about there at the end. Kathy says, I feel like this is something I've been working on the last year, self-acceptance. And nothing's perfect. It will always need the work. And even if you feel, guys, a good thing to remember is even if you feel like you've got it down, there's still going to be times where things don't work perfectly. So don't expect perfection, you know? Oh, you are so welcome, Deborah Jeanette. Yeah, you're so welcome. I'm glad you guys liked it. So remember, if you already have the Pathways Planner, when you log into the portal, which is found on page 5 in your book, so the page will look like this with the square box, you'll have a little QR code here and a link where you can sign up for the free online learning portal. The second box down gives you the how to request access to the private Pathways Planner community. Blah. You guys are so welcome. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. And of course, if you need a planner, we'll be happy to sell you a planner. But again, you guys, you can use this on any of your own stuff. We just want you to do well this year. I just feel like this has kind of come out of, we've had these few years of COVID. Everybody's kind of been in this in-between space, what's going on. And it's just time to move into action, guys. It just is. You are so welcome. I'm glad you're happy and motivated. Yeah, lots to mull over. Kathy's raspberrying me. Oh no, she's doing the Pathways private planner community, I think. You're so welcome, guys. Lots of love to all of you. As we like to say, blessed be, blessed we. I'm glad we got the sound thing worked out. And remember, this is going to live in the Facebook community, so like you can come back and watch it again if you want. I did go over what I thought I would, but you know, I just wanted to make sure we got to all the questions. So you are welcome. You are so welcome, guys. You're so kind. All right, friends. Well, I'm going to leave you to it. Cool, Kathy. I will, hopefully a little later today, I'll be able to let you into that group. And guys, if you're already in the group, you can post in that group. Get in there, post what you're doing, looking for an accountability partner, post that you're looking for one. Yeah, we're going to make it a great year. All right, friends, I'm going to let you go for today. I hope you have a wonderful one. And let's see, it's Monday, so I'll see you tomorrow at 11. Okay, take care, friends. Bye.